Immortality. They fear it, misunderstand it, or dismiss it as impossible. But I have stared into the abyss of eternity and seen the truth that lies beyond. Why does the Sith Lord obsess over eternal life? Is it not the way of the Sith to embrace passion, to burn brightly and fiercely? But therein lies the fundamental flaw in the thinking of my predecessors. They saw power as a tool to reshape the galaxy. I see it differently. Power is the end, and what greater power is there than to conquer death itself? Imagine the accumulated knowledge of millennia, all contained within a single, undying mind. The ability to see plans unfold, not over years or decades, but over centuries. To guide the fate of galaxies with the patience of one who need not fear the ravages of time. This is the true path to domination. I was born Ego Damas II on the planet Magento. A world of crystals and credits, where the intergalactic banking clan has sway. From my earliest years, the Force flowed through me, a raw and untamed power that set me apart from my peers. Little did I know that my very existence was the result of careful manipulation by the Sith Lord who would become my master. My father, Kar Damas, a prominent member of the intergalactic banking clan, never suspected that his own son would be the instrument of the Sith's grand plan. But fate had other ideas. At the age of 5, I discovered my connection to the Force. It was a trivial matter at first, convincing a youngling to take his own life. Have you ever felt the rush of power that comes from bending another's will to your own? It's intoxicating. And from that moment, I knew I would never be satisfied with a mundane existence. Darth Tenebrous, ever the schemer, had arranged for my birth. My father was not my own. He predicted that I would be strong in the Force. Tenebrous sought an apprentice whom he could mold and eventually possess, using the midichlorians to ensure his consciousness would survive. His ultimate goal was to take control of the prophesied Chosen One when they would appear. My father was an opportunist. He saw my potential as a means to further his own ambitions. When Darth Tenebrous approached him with an offer to train me in the ways of the Sith, my father didn't hesitate. A career advancement in exchange for his own flesh and blood. Little did he know that he was trading away not just his son, but the future of the galaxy. For 25 years, I trained under Tenebrous, learning the ways of the Sith and the secrets of the dark side. He named me Darth Plagueis, a title I would come to embody in ways he could never foresee. But make no mistake, my training was far from complete or comprehensive. Tenebrous, in his arrogance and short-sightedness, often sent me on trivial missions, more concerned of preserving my life for his plans than truly honing my abilities. Tell me, have you ever dedicated decades of your life to a single goal, knowing that one misstep could mean your destruction? The life of a Sith apprentice is one of constant vigilance, of carefully planned moves and calculated risks. For 25 years, I endured brutal training, bidding my time, waiting for the perfect moment to seize power for myself. It was during that time that I began to understand the true nature of power. While Tenebrous focused on the physical aspects of the Force, I delved deeper, exploring the very fabric of life itself. I became fascinated with the Midichlorians, these microscopic life forms that connect us to the Force. I saw them to be the key to ultimate power, their power over life and death itself. As I grew in power and influence, so too did my public persona. I ascended to the position of chairman of the intergalactic banking clan, amassing wealth and connections that would prove invaluable in years to come. But even as I played the role of a successful banker, I was always Sith. My family, cursed with a rare genetic defect, began to succumb to illness one by one. All except me, of course, for I was not of their blood. I took great pleasure in watching my siblings waste away, spending millions on treatments that I ensured were nothing more than elaborate placebos. Their early deaths filled me with dark satisfaction, and I inherited not only their wealth, but also their family business, their mask holdings. When the time finally came to end Tenebrous's life, I felt no remorse. During a mission to a cortosis mine, I saw my opportunity. The mine's unstable nature provided the perfect cover. As we explored the depths of the mine, I felt the dark side inform me that the time had come to claim my rightful place as master. As the cavern began to collapse, I used the Force to bring down massive stone slabs upon my master. Can you imagine the shock and betrayal he must have felt? The realization that everything he had worked for was about to be undone by his own apprentice. As he lay there, broken and dying, I informed him that his death would mark the end of the Rule of Two. The look of shock and betrayal in his eyes as I snapped his neck was exquisite. What I didn't realize then, that Tenebrous had infected me with a virus of his own creation, one that robbed me of my powers of precognition. It was his final act of spite. A Sith Lord is never truly powerless. With Tenebrous gone, I ascended to the rank of Sith Master, but my work was far from over. I had grander ambitions than merely continuing the lineage of the Sith. No, I sought to unlock the secrets of life itself. My experiments with the midichlorians became an obsession. I delved deeper into arcane knowledge that had been lost for millennia, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible with the Force. Have you ever considered the implications of being able to create life itself, to hold the power of death at bay? My research into the midichlorians was not mere scientific curiosity. It was a quest to unravel the very fabric of existence. These microscopic life forms, bridging the gap between the physical and the metaphysical, hold the key to unlocking the deepest mysteries of the Force. I spent countless hours in meditation, reaching out to every midichlorian in the galaxy. I felt the ebb and flow of life itself, seeing the delicate balance that governs all things. And in those moments of profound connection, I glimpsed the possibility of true immortality. But the Force resists. It pushes back against my efforts to master it, to bend it to my will. Lesser beings might see this as a sign to relent, to accept the natural order. But I am Sith, and I do not yield. I do not accept. I have created life where there was none. I uphold beings back from the brink of death. These are but stepping stones on my path to the ultimate goal. For what is the point of ruling in a galaxy if one cannot rule indefinitely? The Jedi, in their ignorance, preach about becoming one with the Force after death. They see this as a form of immortality, but I seek more. I seek to remain in this realm, to exert my will upon the physical world for all time. Some might call this hubris. They might warn of unforeseen consequences, of the danger of disrupting the natural cycle of life and death. But progress has always come at a price, and I am more than willing to pay it. As I continued my research, I began to unravel the mysteries of the Force. I learned to manipulate the midichlorians to create life, to heal grievous wounds, and even to bring beings back from the brink of death. But with each discovery, I felt the Force itself resist my efforts. Years passed, and my power grew. I orchestrated events from the shadows, manipulating the galaxy's political landscape to serve my ends. The Sith had hidden for 1,000 years, but under my guidance, we would soon emerge triumphant. And then, on a fateful day on Naboo, I encountered a young man who would change everything. His name was Palpatine, and in him, I sensed a darkness that rivaled my own. Little did I know that this meeting would set in motion events that would reshape the galaxy forever. No, Palpatine. His name still sends ripples through the Force even now. When our eyes first met on Naboo, I saw a reflection of my own ambition, my own darkness. But tell me, have you ever looked into the eyes of your greatest ally, only to see your future destroyer? I saw in him the potential to be more than just an apprentice. He could be the instrument at which the Sith would finally achieve victory over the Jedi and dominion over the galaxy. I took young Palpatine under my wing, guiding him in the ways of politics and power. I manipulated events to push him towards the dark side, and when he finally embraced it fully, murdering his entire family in a fit of rage, I knew I had found my true apprentice. I named him Darth Sidious, and together we began to set in motion plans that had been millennia in the making. Our goal was nothing less than complete control of the galaxy, with Sidious as Supreme Chancellor and eventually Emperor, and myself as the power behind the throne. Our plan was audacious, spanning decades and generations. We would orchestrate the fall of the Republic from within, using the very systems meant to protect it as the instruments of its destruction. Have you ever marveled at the intricate dance of politics? Imagine that dance as a deadly waltz, with the fate of billions hanging in the balance. My obsession with immortality grew stronger with each passing year. I could feel death's cold fingers reaching for me, and I was determined to slip from its grasp. But power corrupts, and absolute power, well, it breeds paranoia. I began to see threats everywhere, even in my own apprentice. The rule of two had conditioned generations of Sith to expect betrayal. Yet, I foolishly believed I could transcend it. One of my greatest achievements during this time was the creation of the Clone Army. Oh, the irony of it all. An army created in secret, ostensibly to protect the Republic, but in reality, a tool for its downfall. Have you ever set in plan a motion so grandiose, so far-reaching, that its very scope seems impossible? I manipulated the Jedi Master, Sidious, playing on his fears and future conflicts. Through him, we commissioned an army. Sidious, ever the cunning apprentice, suggested we use bounty hunter Jango Fett as a template. A stroke of genius, I must admit. But even as our plans progressed, I felt a disturbance in the Force. Something was changing. The balance was shifting, and not entirely in our favor. It was during this time that Sidious began training his own apprentice, Darth Maul. I allowed it, believing Maul to be merely a useful tool, an assassin to do our bidding. How wrong I was. In my arrogance, I had overlooked a fundamental truth. Every apprentice aspires to surpass their master. As our influence grew, so did the scope of our ambitions. I orchestrated the trade disputes, manipulated the Senate, and slowly but surely eroded the foundations of the Republic. All the while, I continued my research, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with the Force. I succeeded in using the Force to create life, to heal mortal wounds, even to bring creatures back from the brink of death. But true immortality still eluded me. I was so close to the ultimate power, yet unable to grasp it fully. And then came the event that would change everything. The discovery of a young slave boy on Tatooine, a child with the highest midichlorian count ever recorded, Anakin Skywalker. When I first sensed his presence in the Force, I was overcome with a vision so powerful it nearly brought me to my knees. I saw great battles, the clash of lightsabers and a figure in black armor rising from the flames. Was this the Force's response to our machinations? A chosen one to bring balance? The implications were staggering. Had our attempt to manipulate the Force caused it to create its own champion? Or was this child the key to unlocking the very secrets of life and death that I had sought for so long? I instructed Sidious to watch the boy closely. Little did I know that in doing so, I was sowing the seeds of my own destruction. For in Anakin Skywalker, Sidious saw not just a powerful Force user, but a potential apprentice far stronger than myself. As our plans neared fruition, I felt a sense of invincibility. We were on the verge of achieving what no Sith had managed in 1,000 years. The Republic was crumbling, the Jedi were blind to the threat we posed, and ultimate power was within our grasp. For even as I reveled in our imminent victory, the dark side clouded my vision. I did not see the premonition of an assassin. One that had scarred me, taken half of my face. It was a reminder to be vigilant, to be cautious, and never underestimate your enemies. The night before Sidious was to be elected Supreme Chancellor, we celebrated our impending victory. The wine flowed freely, and for once, I allowed myself to relax in the presence of my apprentice. Have you ever felt so secure in your position that you overlooked the danger aimed at your back? I spoke at length about our future plans, about how we would reshape the galaxy in our image. The rule of two would be no more. We would be the eternal Sith Lords, ruling side by side for all time. Oh, how Sidious must have laughed inwardly at my hubris. As the night wore on, and the wine took its toll, I began to feel drowsy. In my arrogance, I believed I had nothing to fear from Sidious. After all, had I not taught him everything he knew? Had I not made him what he was? I drifted off to sleep, my guard completely lowered. It was then that Sidious made his move. I awoke to searing pain as Force lightning coursed through my body. The intensity was beyond anything I'd ever experienced. A testament to how powerful Sidious had become, or perhaps to how weak the wine had made me. As I writhed in agony, my mind raced. How could I have been so blind? The signs were there all along. Sidious's growing ambition, his secretive training of Maul, his keen interest in young Skywalker. In my pursuit of immortality, I had overlooked the most basic tenet of the Sith. Through the haze of pain, I saw the face of my apprentice, twisted in a cruel smile. Even as my body failed me, my mind remained sharp. I realized then the full scope of Sidious's betrayal. He had not just seized an opportunity, he had orchestrated this moment, perhaps for years. The wine, the celebration, the lowering of my guard, all had been part of his plan. As the lightning continued to ravage my body, I made one last, desperate attempt to save myself. I reached out with the Force, trying to tap into the midichlorians that had been the focus of my research for so long. If I could just heal myself, just hold on a little longer. But it was not meant to be. Whether it was the intensity of Sidious's attack, or my own weakened state, or perhaps the will of the Force itself, I could not summon the power to save myself. In those final moments, as I felt my life slipping away, a strange clarity came over me. I saw the grand tapestry of the Force, the interplay of light and dark, life and death, and I understood, perhaps for the first time, the true mastery of the Force was not about controlling it, but about accepting its will. Even in death, I could not escape the irony of my situation. I, who had sought to create life, to cheat death itself, had been undone by my very apprentice I had trained. The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, indeed. As I reflect on my life and my ultimate fate, I realize now the true depth of my folly. I never saw Sidious as merely an apprentice. No. In him I saw a peer, a confidant, someone to rule alongside me for all eternity. This, perhaps, was my greatest mistake. In my arrogance, I believed I'd unlocked the secret to immortality. The fear of death no longer held sway over me, and with it, the urgency to pass on my knowledge faded. I had orchestrated it all. The Naboo blockade, the manipulation of the Trade Federation, the creation of the Clone Army, Palpatine's rise to power. The seeds I had planted were beginning to bear fruit, and the galaxy was dancing to the tune I composed over decades. The real tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise is not only my demise. No, the true tragedy lies in the knowledge that died with me. My holocron, containing the fruits of my research, the secrets of life and death itself, was never recovered. Sidious, in his haste to seize power, had killed me before learning the very things that could have made him truly invincible. As I felt my life slipping away, I saw the future unfolding before me. Sidious would go on to implement my plans, riding on the coattails of my schemes. From the Naboo crisis all the way through the construction of the Death Star. But he would do so without my wisdom, without the deeper understanding that I had cultivated over a lifetime of study. And so, I, Darth Plagueis the Wise, met my end, not in glorious battle, not through the culmination of my research, but by the hands of my own apprentice, in a moment of vulnerability. Was my death truly a failure? Or was it the final step in the grand plan of the Sith? For in my demise, Sidious was free to take full control, to implement our schemes without the restraint I might have imposed. In the years that followed, as I watched from the netherworld of the Force, I saw our plans come to fruition. The Republic fell, the Jedi were destroyed, and a Sith Lord sat upon the throne of a galactic empire. My apprentice did gain power, the position, the empire, but the true power, the mastery over life and death itself, slipped through his fingers like sand. And so, as I fade into the Force, I leave you with this final question. Is there any greater tragedy than potential unfulfilled? To come so close to ultimate power, only to have it snatched away by short-sightedness and impatience? The Sith Empire that rose in my wake was but a shadow of what could have been. And that is the real tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Force itself may stand against me, but I will not be denied. For in the end, there is no greater power than the will to power itself. Immortality is not just an obsession, it is my destiny, and through it, I will bring about an age of Sith rule that will last for eternity. Let the Force tremble before me. Let the galaxy bear witness, for I am Darth Plagueis, and death itself shall kneel at my feet.
Enkel mogen hel naar doel, man maat voel.